What is up, YouTube? This is T1 coming at you with another video, and today I'm going to talk to you about something a little different. The summer movie season, at least mostly, has come to a close this year, and it's always a special time for me. This channel is nothing if not a document to my love of big spectacle, crowd pleasing entertainment. And since I do make a habit of seeing as many movies as I can every summer, I thought it might be fun to rank the ones I saw this year. There's 10 movies, so without further delay, let's get into the list, starting with number 10, which is The Watchers. I really hate picking on first time directors, and I hope Ishana Night Shyamalan has a long, cool career ahead of her. Um, this one just didn't work for me, sadly. Now, I will say about summer 2024, there wasn't really a giant disaster on the scale of some of the movies we got last year, but this one just kind of face plants. Dakota Fanning is pretty good in the lead, but the rest of the cast seems lost, and while the film is set over an extended period of time, you never really feel it. You don't feel the isolation or the way this group comes to rely on each other. But I will give it this: lots of movies are good in the build up part of the story, but then once they show the monster, it gets really silly. This movie's kind of the opposite of that. The first half of this movie is really clunky and the characters are boring, but once you get a good look at these things, the film improves quite a bit, in my opinion. Number 9 is The Fall Guy, an inoffensive but ultimately unnecessary movie. Ryan Gosling is doing little other than a slightly muted retread of his Ken shtick from Barbie, but the real issue here is the length. I'd be much more forgiving if this was a 90-minute light comedy, but the movie is over 2 hours and simply doesn't justify that. In terms of positives, it's pretty to look at. There's a couple decent jokes, and director David Leitch continues to be the only filmmaker who can pull a decent performance out of Aaron Taylor Johnson, but I'm not losing any sleep over this one underperforming. Number 8, A Quiet Place Day 1. I stopped making reviews before this franchise started, so you probably don't know I really didn't care for the first A Quiet Place movie. I never saw the second, but this one was a big improvement. Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn are really likable as the leads of this film. The tension is kept near constant throughout. There's some fun and creative scenarios done with the by now getting kind of stale aliens from these movies, and it touches on some interesting themes of how far you're willing to go if the world is fucked anyway. Not a masterpiece, but a big leap up not only from its predecessor, but the previous two films on this list. Number 7, Twisters. My friend Chaos and I kind of rubbished this movie when it was announced, but after that Super Bowl trailer, I was singing a different tune. I'm happy to report that this film was pretty much exactly what I wanted it to be. Lee Isaac Chung directs the fuck out of the plentiful storm sequences in here and makes Oklahoma look as beautiful as Peter Jackson did for New Zealand. Glenn Powell plants his flag as a movie star with an electric performance and introduces one of the summer's most fun characters in Storm Chaser Tyler Owens. The movie does slow down a little bit in the third act, but every single time a tornado is on screen, it's some of the coolest shit I experienced in a theater all year. Number 6, Inside Out 2. Disney had a really rough run last summer, but they're the comeback kings of 2024. I'll be honest, I have a weakness for Pixar, and any movie I get to bring my daughter to, I'm pretty forgiving of, but I genuinely think this is a really strong sequel. It leans pretty heavily on the first movie, but lightning does strike twice in this instance. Once again, we get a really funny, breezy family movie that hits you with some heavy emotions in the second half. Inside Out 2 is touching, it's hilarious, and it reminded me why I loved these characters from before. And it earned its place alongside the first film as one of the jewels in Pixar's crown. Number 5 is Trap. Shyamalan the Older fared quite a bit better than his daughter this year with one of the best dark comedies I've ever seen. I know this movie is divisive, but I was laughing my ass off for huge chunks of it and in genuine suspense for other parts. His weird, idiosyncratic dialogue can be a turnoff to some, but there's no one who makes movies like Shyamalan. Josh Hartnett gives his best performance in years in a really showy role as the suburban dad slash serial killer at the heart of the film, and with a litany of twists and turns and oh shit moments, Trap more than delivered on its absolutely gonzo premise for me. Number 4, Alien Romulus. I'll just put it simply, it's the third best Alien movie. This franchise has needed a good kick in the pants for years, and Don't Breathe's Fede Alvarez was just the filmmaker to do it. Bringing all his exploitation film sensibilities to what might just be the nastiest, grimiest, most mean spirited alien film ever made. and I loved every minute of it. There's a strong showing from many promising young actors here, but especially David Johnson, who steals the whole film as the synthetic Andy. There's some straight up gag inducing practical effects, and even though the movie gets a little carried away with the whole love letter to the franchise thing, it's still a damn good time at the movies. Number three, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Full disclosure, I thought this was going to suck. The new Planet of the Apes reboot films are one of my favorite trilogies of all time, and extending it with a fourth movie sounded like a horrible idea to me. But after watching it, I can say that while not a patch on either of the Matt Reeves installments, this is pretty good. In an age of underwhelming CG, these movies are still some of the best looking blockbusters out there. I especially love that this one looks more visually similar to the original movies than the previous reboot films did. Westball directs his ass off and gives the start to what could be yet another epic saga within this universe. Also, Kevin Durant is a great bad guy, in case anyone needed reminding, and he has one of my favorite villain deaths in a while. Sometimes a return trip to a familiar well really is worth it. Number two, Deadpool and Wolverine. I thought the first film was fine, and the second one actually pretty good, but this was the surprise of the year for me. Not only is it the funniest of the three films, but also by far the most heartfelt. And while Logan was a perfect send off to the character, Hugh Jackman really is that good as Wolverine. It's just good to see him again, no matter what movie he's in. Some say this film leaned too heavily on nostalgia, but damn it, it's my nostalgia. I was a kid in the 2000s, and I grew up with a lot of those X-Men and other Fox Marvel movies. While uneven, a movie acknowledging that they were worthwhile and that we did lose something when they stopped really hit me in the feels. Deadpool and Wolverine is a love letter to those movies. The movies that helped shape me as a moviegoer and sometimes even as a person. And for me, it's the second best movie I saw this summer. Number one, Furiosa. Yeah, probably the least shocking moment on this list. Mad Max is one of those series that ought to be studied in a lab. Like, how do they keep making them this good? George Miller gave us a companion, though a very different movie, from the gold that was Fury Road, and this is just straight up one of the best things I've ever seen in a theater. The stowaway sequence in particular made my jaw drop. Anytime I watch Miller work, it's like seeing a magician. You're always wondering, how the fuck does he pull this off? It's also a very personal story, but one that feels big and mythic. Furiosa was a great character back in 2015 and one worth expanding on. This is one of those rare prequels that actually makes its predecessor better and feel more complete. Chris Hemsworth gives maybe his best performance as the unhinged warlord Dementis. Tom Burke blew me away as well as Praetorian Jack, and Miller's direction is once again awe inspiring. Look, any trip to the wasteland is a good trip to the wasteland, but this is a hell of a ride and makes Mad Max one of the only series I can think of to have five good movies in a row. Also, do I even need to explain how good Anya Taylor Joy is in here? So that was my list. I had a pretty good summer 2024, and if you're wondering, hey, August ain't over yet, I'm not fucking watching The Crow. Um, with that said, I hope you enjoyed this. This is T Quint One signing out.